Hey folks, this is the 11th video in my series that will teach you how to automate a Google Slides deck using Google Apps Script. If you'd like to catch up on previous lessons or stay up to date with future videos, please check out the playlist in my description. To get you up to speed, we currently have a project that will scrape data from ProFootballReference.com using a Python script. We are then collecting specific data points from Pro Football Reference and sending it to a Google Sheet. From there, we have a script that will automate the creation of a Google Slides deck, and we'll call it NFC East Slides. We have a development set of logic that will delete a deck if one already exists. That way we don't have to manually delete stuff as we're figuring out how to build our project out. We also have a slide creator function that we have hard-coded values to that will append a new slide into the presentation deck, and we'll add in a title, a subtitle, and then we'll create a stylized data table with a header line. The result of our work is what you see before you here. These are all text box elements. So instead of having a traditional slides table, you can see that each of these are their own elements, which enables us to plot them where we want to on the page. In this video, we're going to be learning how to insert images. So for each of the teams in our data set, we are going to have an image that will appear in the right upper corner. So what we're going to do is learn how to collect images that are, in my opinion, best for slides. And then we're going to create a assets folder that we are going to programmatically call from our script so that when the team name appears, if the photo exists in the assets folder, then it will appear up here. And if the assets folder does not have an image for the team, then text will appear up there that just says the team name. So we're going to begin in our project folder. So my recommendation to you is that you should have a folder specifically for this project. So you can see this is our deck. This is my Python script where I have extracted the data, and then I have a folder here for decks. So that's where we're sending our completed projects. So we are going to create another folder. So I'm going to hit Shift F because that is the keyboard shortcut to create a new folder. And I'm just going to call this all lowercase assets. You could do uppercase too if you want to. I don't think it really matters. You can see that folders in my settings here are ordered alphabetically. So first comes folders, then comes files. So we're going to go into that folder and we don't have anything in there. We're going to open up a new browser tab and we are going to search for Philadelphia Eagles. And then you can see I've already done this before, so it's suggesting PNG. This is what I would recommend that you work with, and I'll show you why. So I know for a fact that this image will work because I've used it before. So you can see in the background here, there's this gradient. I'm sorry, I don't know much about media assets like this. I just kind of know how they work. So if somebody is more knowledgeable, please feel free to, use the comment section to educate all of us. This is a strong indication when you have a checkered background like this, that this is an asset that is optimal. So I'll show you what that means. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy the image. And for now, I'm just going to hard paste it into my slide. So you can already kind of see why this is an optimal image. Even though it's on top of our data table, you can still see the values behind it. So if I resize this, then you'll see in the background that we're still seeing stuff here, right? The only things that are covered up is when the image, the actual image is over it. But there is a background in here. Now let's compare that to an image like this, where you can see it's just a white background, or sorry, that's not the right one. This one, where it's just a white background, right? It doesn't have those checkered marks. If I copy that image and I paste it in here, you can see that it actually has a white background. So it's not just the image includes this white border that is blocking everything underneath it. As opposed to if we move this image down here, and let's see if we can overlay this. So that's a little bit smaller now. So we can, but if we put this image on top of this image, so let's try, let me see if I can actually get you to see it. No, it doesn't matter. Okay, but I think you get the point, right? If you don't have the correct image, then it'll just make it more difficult to manage your asset. So I'm not going to go through all the teams. I'm just going to kind of show you that if you have questions about, images and all that type of stuff, I'm not the best person to talk to about it, but you can reach out in the comments or send me an email and I'll gladly help you as best I can. So what we're going to do now is we are going to save the image as, and I'm going to save it to my downloads. And then I am going to go back to my Google Drive folder and I'm going to hit Shift U, which is the keyboard shortcut for uploading a new file. And I'm just going to upload my asset into Drive. So you can see it has this name here, Philadelphia _Eagles _watermark, blah, 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 blah. I don't want it to say that. What I want it to say is the name as it appears in my data set. So I'm going to go back to my sheet. I'm going to copy the name. I'm going to hit enter. Oop, no, I'm not going to do that. Sorry. I'm going to right click it and I'm going to hit rename. And I'm going to highlight everything. And I'm just going to delete it. And I'm going to paste in Philadelphia Eagles. The reason that I want it to be the exact name as the sheet is because this is a really simple way when using a script to associate name values. So for example, in our creator slide, we already have a variable called name. And we are going to be using the names from the data set so that we can loop through all the data to programmatically create our slides. So if we want to programmatically insert images that are associated with the name, we need the name to have the same values. Or we need to come up with a dictionary where we associate related names. It's a lot of work. It's not, you know what I mean? Like you can do it if you want to. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that for this lesson and for this project, it's easy to control the names that we have for the assets. So we're just going to have it be standardized. Cool. So we are just going to have this name in here. So if you're using another team or something else, have the name in your assets folder align with the name in your data set. We're going to go back to our script now, and we're going to create a new function. This function is going to be called getImage. It's going to be a slide function. So we are going to go to the upper left-hand corner, and we're going to select this plus symbol that says add a file. We're going to add a new script file. We're going to call it slide space func space 03 colon space get capital I image. Now, the naming of your file doesn't matter, but for the sake of being able to see what function exists in which file, we're going to use the actual name of the function so that bug correcting will become easier. I'm going to remove the boilerplate. You don't have to. We're going to begin by typing out the word function and then hitting space. We're going to use get in all lowercase, and then we're going to use a capital I image. We're going to have an open parentheses. We're going to go to the right, we're going to hit space, and then we're going to open up a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and then we're going to hit space. We're going to call this assets folder. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab. We're going to declare a variable called image capital F folder. We're going to hit space, hit enter, hit space, and then we're going to leverage Drive App. Drive App is case sensitive, so it needs to be a capital D, capital A. We're going to use a dot. We're going to say get folder capital B by capital ID. Again, app script is case sensitive, so if you're getting an error with any of this stuff, make sure that your case aligns with the expected syntax. We're going to open up a parentheses, and we are going to pass our image folder. So instead of hard coding it, which you can do, I'm going to declare a variable. So I'm going to go back to my, you know what, let's just hard code it, and if we need a variable, a global variable, then we'll add it back in. So we're going to go back to our Google Drive folder, and we're going to go up into the URL, and you'll see this value here after folders slash is your folder ID. So highlight that, copy it, and then we're going to go back to our app script, and we're going to make sure you have single quotes or double quotes. It doesn't matter which, just make sure you're consistent with whatever you've been using in your project. My preference is to start with single quotes for ID values. So we're going to paste our ID in there. We're going to go to the right, and we're going to add a semicolon. Now make sure this is the ID from your folder and not the one that I entered in there, because you're not going to have access to it. We're going to hit enter twice, left arrow twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to call this collect files. We're going to hit enter, and we're going to hit tab. We're going to declare a variable that is named files, plural. That means there's an S there. We're going to set equal to image, capital F, folder. So that variable that we just created, we're going to use image folder dot get capital F files. We're going to have an open parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit the left arrow twice. We're going to add 2 slashes. We're going to hit space. And then we're going to add a comment that says empty array for data collection. We're going to hit enter. We're going to hit tab. We're going to declare a variable of table. We're going to hit space. We're going to hit equal sign. We're going to hit space. And we're going to add empty brackets. When we do this, that means that we are going to be pushing values from a loop into an array so that we can use that array in a later set of logic. Now, if you have been following along with this video series or any of my other video series, when we leverage something like get files or get sheets, the method is returning an iterable result. That means in order to access the values that are being processed, you have to loop through them in order to extract them. So what we're going to do is after our empty table array, we're going to hit enter twice, we're going to hit the left arrow twice, and we're going to add a comment, and we're going to say loop through the files variable. We're going to hit enter once, tab once, and instead of using a for loop, we are going to use a while loop. And we are going to say while files dot has capital N next, open parentheses. Hit the right arrow once, right arrow twice. Hit space, open up a set of curly brackets, hit enter once. We're going to add a comment, and we're going to say file variable, enter, tab, and we're going to declare a variable called file. We're going to hit space, we're going to hit enter, we're going to hit space. We're going to reference files, and then we're going to use dot, and then we're going to have a lowercase next with an open parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow, we're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter once. We're going to add 2 slashes for file name, hit enter, hit tab, and declare a variable called file name with a capital N. So file, all lowercase, capital N, name. Hit space, hit equal, space. We're going to reference that file variable, and we're going to use dot get capital N name. It's going to be an open parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter once. We're going to hit the left arrow twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for another comment, and we're going to say file ID. We're going to hit enter. We're going to hit tab, variable, or var, file, capital ID, and we're going to set that equal to file dot get capital I, lowercase d, open parentheses, right arrow, hit the semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, and we're going to add 2 comments for create empty array for pairing. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we're going to declare a variable called collection. We're going to hit space, we're going to hit the equal sign, we're going to hit space, and we're going to add another set of square brackets. So what's going to happen here is when we go through these files, we want to extract two primary values, the file name and the file ID. The reason that we want the file name is because we want to know what team the asset belongs to. So in our data set, which I'm going to go back to my sheet, so if you want to look at my code, pause the video and do what you need to do and then hit resume. Within the sheet, we have a collection of data across various teams, right? So we have some stuff for the Eagles, we have some stuff for the Giants, and so on and so forth. So when we're creating a slide for the Eagles, we need to have a name that will allow us to associate these data values with the asset in the folder. So by collecting the name of the asset using file.getName, we then have something that we can match the data to. So when we pass that Philadelphia Eagles variable into the getImage function, we can return the Philadelphia Eagles image. Additionally, we're going to need that ID because the program, the application, doesn't really care what the name is in terms of when it needs to access the ID that it's going to put into the slide, right? So the slide is not going to put the file name in there. It's going to need the file ID. You probably could use the file name. I find the ID to be more stable because the name might change, but the ID will not. Case in point, with the Washington football team, we don't have to talk about why or how or our thoughts on it, but their name has changed multiple times. So if you had used one of their previous names when you were building out this application, you would have to go in and then change a bunch of stuff. Whereas now, you just change it in one place and it will flow through your application without issue. So what we're going to be doing now is we are going to be creating an array that will be passed to this collection variable so that we have the name and the ID paired together. Because right now we only have one name in here, but when we have all the teams, and if we expand our list of teams, we'll have several assets in here, and we need to pair the name and the ID. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add in some logging in here. So if you would like to follow along, go to your file name variable and click to the right of get name, open parentheses, semicolon. We're going to hit enter. I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to add in 2 comments for logging. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit tab, and I'm going to do logger.log. And I'm going to do file name. I'm going to go to the right, add a semicolon. I'm going to do the same thing with get ID. I'm going to go to the right of that line. I'm going to hit enter once. I'm going to add in, oh, you know what? I'll keep my same formatting. I'll tab it. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment and say logging. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to do logger.log file ID. And what I'll do now is I'll save this, and I'm going to run this function so that you can see. My apologies. Okay, so now I'm going to run it. So now you can see here that we get individual items, right? We get Philadelphia Eagles, and then we get this string, which we presume to be the file ID, given that we said get ID and we got a result. So what we're going to do now is go to this collection variable here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter a couple times at the bottom of my while loop. You don't have to do this. I just want to have a little bit of white space at the bottom so that you can kind of see everything on the screen. So if you do want to look at anything, pause it now. Otherwise, I'm going to hit enter a couple times. Cool. So we're at this tables variable, and then we're in our while loop, and we are going to be on the line that is var collection is equal to square brackets. We're going to hit enter once, enter twice, left arrow once, left arrow twice, 2 slashes for a comment, and a space. This comment is going to say push the variables to an array to create pairs. We're going to hit enter. We're going to hit tab. We are going to say collection dot push, and then we're going to open up parentheses, and we're just going to reference our file name variable. We're going to add a comma, we're going to hit space, and then we're going to add file capital ID variable. We're going to hit the right arrow, we're going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to add in 2 slashes, and I'm going to say logging. I'm going to hit enter, I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to do logger.log, open up a parentheses, and I'm going to log out our collection variable. I'm going to hit save, I'm going to hit run, and now you can see instead of just getting the file name or the file ID, we now have an array or a list that has the name, comma, and the ID. This is an optimal way for us to reference this data because now we can run a loop and use conditional statements in order to evaluate the name to identify the variable that or the ID that we want to use. Excuse me. We're going to go to the right of our logger.log collection. We're going to hit enter once, enter twice. We're going to hit the left arrow once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And now we are going to push the collection array into the empty table array. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we are going to reference that table variable on line 10, and we're going to use the dot push method once again. And now we're going to reference collection. We're going to hit the right arrow, we're going to add a semicolon, we're going to hit the down arrow once, down arrow twice, we're going to hit tab once, we're going to hit enter once, we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to say logging. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we are going to say logger.log, and we will use table. We're going to go to the right, and we're going to add a semicolon, and now we are going to run our function once again. And now you can see the evolution of what we have done. So I'm going to go back to the top of the function here. What we are doing is we are using drive app in order to get a folder by its ID. So that's the same as us going to My Drive and then clicking through all of our folders until we get to this place where it says Assets, and we have this Philadelphia Eagles PNG file. We are then using that image folder variable in order to get all of the files, right? So we've clicked on the folder, and now we are accessing all the files. We've created an empty array so that when we use our while loop to loop through all those files, we are getting the name of the file, and then we are getting the ID of the file. We created another empty array, and then we pushed the file name and the file ID into the array so that they are comma-separated values. That's what you're seeing on this third log here, right? You're getting a list that has comma-separated values, or it's an array. So this is array point 1, which is 0 index. So if we wanted to get Philadelphia Eagles from collection, all we would have to do is call collection in square brackets and pass a 0. If we want to get the ID, we just say collection square brackets 1, and then we'll get this ID in here. Finally, we pushed the collection array into the table array. So now we have a 2-dimensional array. This is important when we have more than one file in there or more than one image in there. So just so that you can kind of see how this is going to work, I'm going to use Shift-U. Oh, my apologies. I'm going to use Shift-U, and I am going to find, you can see this is where I have all of my YouTube thumbs. So I'm just going to upload an image into the folder. It doesn't matter what it's called. You don't have to do this. I just want you to see what the process is for this logic. So I'm going to hit run again. And now you can see that on the first loop, we got Philadelphia Eagles and the ID, and then we created an array for those values. So we have Philadelphia Eagles associated with its ID by using the push method. Next, we got the second file in the folder, which is thumbs parentheses number1.jpg, and then its file ID. They're then added to an array. And then once the loop is done, it results in the table array having a two-dimensional array where the first array is the eagles and the second array is the thumb. So if we wanted to loop through this in order to get things just for the Philadelphia Eagles, we now have a logical hierarchy to do so. Additionally, we have the ability to collect multiple assets so that we can construct a logical system that will allow us to loop through them so that all of them can be created without us having to intervene with a manual adjustment of any kind. Cool. So I'm going to leave that image in there. You don't have to. You can upload an image if you want to. I don't think it's going to impact your program at all. But we are going to move forward where we are going to loop through the table array to construct a conditional logic system to extract a single file ID that we can then push into the slide. So I am going to go to the top of the function. So go to line 1, hit enter once, hit enter twice, add 2 slashes, and say development variable. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we're going to declare our variable set to name. And that will be equal to, we're going to hard code Philadelphia Eagles or whatever you want to, you know what I mean? So like if you're using some other naming convention in here, feel free to use that for this name variable. But we just want something as a placeholder for our function. So I'm going to hit enter twice after our logger. I'm going to hit left arrow twice, add 2 slashes, and add a space. We're going to say loop through the table array. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and now we're going to use a for loop. We're going to declare a variable of I. You can declare yours whatever you want it to be. I is typically what you'll see when people use for loops. I believe it stands for iterable or iterator. So we're going to say for I in table, right? So we're going to reference that table array that we constructed all the way up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that loop just so that you can see that this is now what we are referencing. So if I'm going to actually unhide this. So if you want to take a moment and just make sure your code lines up with mine, make sure it's working, you know, take a screenshot now and then hit resume once you're ready to move forward. Cool. So we are referencing this empty table array, which we have pushed some values into. So we're going to do for I in table. We're going to hit space after the parentheses. We're going to have a curly bracket there. We're going to hit enter, and we are going to add 2 slashes to enter in a comment of evaluate the name variable. Eventually, this will be name input, but right now is a hard-coded variable up here. So you're going to hit enter, you're going to hit tab, and then we're going to use an if, open parentheses, and then we're going to reference table, square bracket I, and then we're going to use square bracket 0. The reason for that, I'm going to open up my execution log now, so bear with me. You can see that in our tables two-dimensional array here, the first value is the name. That is what we are going to be testing our input or our variable against. So when we enter in square bracket I, when we are referencing an array, we are saying that we want to, basically this I is going to loop through all of the values or all the arrays within the 2D array. So when it goes here, this is technically 0, this whole array here, and this array is 1. That's because arrays are 0 index, so the first value is 0. When we have that second square with a 0 here, that's saying that it wants the first point in the array. So we are saying if the first value in each array is double equal signs, you need to have 2 equal signs here to evaluate, whereas 1 is to define. So we're using 2 equal signs, and then we're going to reference that name variable. We're going to hit the right arrow, we're going to hit space, we're going to add curly brackets, we're going to hit enter, we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to say if the name exists, then extract the associated ID. hit enter, hit tab. We're going to declare a variable called ID. We're going to hit space. We're going to hit enter sign. We're going to hit space. And then we're going to say table square bracket I. We're going to go to the right and we're going to add another square bracket. And this time we're going to use 1. So we use 0 in order to get the name, and then we're using 1 in order to get the ID. So let's say that our name was thumb space parentheses 1.jpg. Then we would still want this ID over here. So that's why we're entering in 1 here, right? So this is evaluating the first thing. This is then defining the variable as the second thing. And if it doesn't exist, then it's not going to do anything. So we're going to hit the down arrow once, down arrow twice, and we hit enter twice, left arrow twice, 2 slashes for another comment. So this is going to be our conditional error management. We're almost done. Hit enter, hit tab, and we're going to use another if statement. We're going to have an open parentheses, and we're going to say ID space exclamation point equal to. So this is saying if ID is not, right? 2 equal signs means something is, exclamation point equal sign means is not. So if ID is not null, so that means if there is an ID, hit the right arrow, hit space, add a pair of curly brackets, hit enter, add 2 slashes for a comment, and say as long as the ID is not null, then an ID exists. Hit enter, hit tab, and we're going to declare a variable called result space equal sign space. And we're going to reference drive app again. We're going to say dot get file by ID, open up a parentheses, and then pass that ID variable that we just created from our for loop. Hit the right arrow, add a semicolon. Hit the down arrow once, hit the down arrow, my apologies, hit enter. So you want to be directly under the if like this. And now we're going to use else. Now, if your alignment isn't, if your indentation does not align like this, then you might get a little bit of an error. So I just want to be hyper specific about that. Go to the right of the end of the curly bracket for your if. If you're following along, we're on line 56. If you're not, doesn't matter. Just make sure you're on this curly bracket with this curly bracket. And to make sure, you can click it like this, and you can see that that lights up to show that they are the same. Hit enter, and now you can see we are directly under the if. We're going to add else. We're going to hit space. We're going to add a curly bracket. We're going to hit enter. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to say if the ID is null, then no image exists, and a null result is passed. So I'm going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we're going to declare a variable of result space equal sign space, and then type the word null. So just to kind of reiterate what's going on here, if the ID is not null, meaning if there is an ID, then pass the ID to driveapp.getFileById. If the result is null, then we are declaring it as null. So go to the last line of your else here, hit enter, add, hit the left arrow twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, hit space, and then log the ID. So we're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we're going to do logger.log, open parentheses, result. We're going to go to the right, we're going to add a semicolon. So what I'm going to do is collapse some of this just so that I have stuff I want to look at. Cool. So I'm going to save this, and then I'm going to hit run. Now, because the Philadelphia Eagles exists in our folder, we should get a result. Although I don't know if that's the result that I actually want, because I want the file ID. Oh. The reason that I'm getting that is because it's the file name. So if I go over here and I copy this over here, and I paste this in like that, and we hit run, you can see that we are now returning that result. Whereas if I go up here and I type in my name and I hit run, you can see that we're getting that null result because it doesn't exist in our array. So what we're going to do now is highlight our name variable and comment it out. So I just highlighted it and hit Command/ because I'm on a Mac. If you're on Windows, I believe it's Control/, but I apologize, I'm not on a Windows machine. We're going to go up to line number 1, and in between get image open parentheses, we're going to pass name in there. So now our function is viable in other areas so that we can test it out. And additionally, we're going to go to our last line here, and we're going to hit enter twice, left arrow twice, add 2 slashes. And because we are going to have a function that we are going to use in other places, we are going to want to have a return statement. So when the function finishes, something is returned, right? So the input will be a name and the output will be the return statement. So in our comment, we're going to say the result of our function. We're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and then we are going to say return space result semicolon. So basically the result is now going to pop out of here. So I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to go into my code file up here. And yeah, let's clean, you know what? I'm going to clean this up. My apologies for not clearing out some of this logging. So I'm going to leave this result in here, and to make it kind of clear, I'm going to say this is my image for this slide. I'm going to add a plus in there so that it shows up, and then I'm going to open up some of these windows, clear out that logging. Cool. So I think we're good now. And okay, so now that we have our get image function, we're going to test it out. So to just give you a refresh on how this code file currently works, we are leveraging a names function in here that is getting the unique names from our sheet. We are then looping through those names, and then we're using a custom function called data collector that will extract the data associated with that name. So I'm going to run this real quick just so that you can see how the function works. So you can see that team square bracket I is looping through all of the names, and then it's giving us this data here. So that's why we wanted to use the same name that appears in the data set, so that when we use the get image function, we can use the names from the data in order to extract the image. So I'm going to hit enter after this logger.log. I'm going to add 2 slashes. I'm going to add a space. I'm going to say test the get image function. Hit enter. I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm going to do logger.log, and I am going to use get image open parentheses, and I'm going to use team square bracket I. So I also removed the logging from my get image function so that we're not going to get a bunch of noise when we try to test this out. So I'm going to hit run on this function, and now you can see that we are getting some logging in here where we say Philadelphia Eagles. This is my image for the slide, colon Philadelphia Eagles. This is my image for the slide, null, because we don't have anything for the Cowboys, null because we don't have anything for Giants, null, we don't have anything for the Commanders. So I added in that additional logging here because I had a little bit of difficulty seeing my results. So you can see I just added in single quote, this is my image for the slide, plus our result, and I commented out my logs. So this was a long one. I hope it was easy to follow along with and you found it helpful. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to plot our images and how to resize them. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments or send me an email. I hope you check out the next one.